What's good, everybody? So this image, I know everybody has seen it from at this point. Nike basically teased and made it official that they're going to be bringing back a crazy classic, a grail for a lot of people, the Wu-Tang Dunks. And honestly, this reveal has caused a lot of controversy in the sneaker realm. We have, on one hand, the people who, never got to really experience this shoe, never really got to buy it, and they always wanted it. So obviously they love for a second chance at it. Then we have, on the other hand, we have people where it just doesn't really make sense from a whole lot of aspects, which I'm gonna really dive into in this video, because me personally, I'm not a fan of it. I'm more, I'm pro of them not releasing it versus them not releasing it. And I'll explain everything to you in this video. But before we continue any further, let me know how you feel about the Wu-Tang Dunks before this video and after the video, because I don't want no smoke with y'all. I know there's some people that love these dunks, that love the idea of Nike bringing out these grills, but I do want to shed some light on the situation. So let's get into it, man. So first off, it was a tease about the Undefeated Fours, which is a grail, one of the most expensive shoes, averaging around $20,000. Only 72 pairs made, and it's the first Jordan collab with a retailer, right? A lot of people didn't like this as well, because it feels like they said that it's the equivalent of you going into the pawn shop and you turning in your grandma's fine jewelry, right? They're like, that's like the most desperate move ever. You shouldn't be doing it. You know that it's wrong, but you're strapped for cash, things like that. So that was one comparison, and I really do agree with that, because even though it is an anniversary next year, and that's why a lot of these things are releasing next year, it also comes to the point where Nike is struggling very bad. And this isn't even an opinion. Their numbers are very low. Their stock is plummeting. And they even admitted on their call, that they're not doing good. And one of the things that they've been trying to do is kind of just throw in all of these releases that everybody used to be so in love for, but they're not realizing that it's kind of too late. And it's late. Not a lot of people, are having that money, and there's a new target audience, right? So bringing a pair of shoes like the Undefeated Fours or the Wu-Tang Nike Dunks, in my opinion, I feel like is a very desperate move that doesn't really have a high payoff. And we've also seen this same exact move work with, a few other releases. For example, the Terror Squad Air Forces, very similar to the Wu-Tang Dunks in the sense of, it's related to an artist group. It has, some real history to it, and it's a release that hasn't come out for, a decade or two, right? Those shoes are at retail, if not below, right? So what do you think is going to happen for the Wu-Tang Dunks? We already have multiple shoes that already look like this. We have the Pollen ones. I'm pretty sure there's a dunk high that's exactly like this, just a high top dunk that's just this without the symbol, right? We have the Mid-Love, the Nike Dunks, right? There are so many alternates to this colorway. So to kind of promote a shoe that represents a group of artists that, because I'll tell you right now, I'm 22. I could not tell you the name of these people right here in this group. I cannot tell you. I might have some Wu-Tang songs downloaded just because I've heard of them before, but I don't know them, right? And that's just not what I really grew up on, and so that's not something that I really wanted to deep dive into it. So these shoes mean nothing to me. And I say all that's to say, there is a younger generation, younger than me, that's kind of like the head of product target audience, right? So just imagine me, where, it's debatable if I should know about Wu-Tang Clan, right? Compared to another generation below, where obviously if I didn't pass it on, it's not going to get passed on to them, and they have no knowledge of what Wu-Tang is, right? So it really just doesn't make sense. So that's one of the main points that where I'm kind of just against it, because economically it doesn't really make sense. It looks very desperate on Nike end, and there's no there really is no reason to release this, right? The Wu-Tang, they haven't done anything significant. You know, they're not like on some like reunion tour or there's no anniversary, so it just doesn't make sense, right? So that's one of the main points. Two is, we like to call it, Nike has like a vault, right? It's like this imaginary vault where they have everything that Nike has ever created. And we usually bring up the vault. For example, you know, people said that the Jordan 1s should be thrown into the vault and locked away because they were just spamming it for like 4 years straight, to the point where nobody wants them and they're all basically under retail at this point. Same thing with the Jordan 4s. Yeah, I think we should just kind of hold them into the vault real quick, to, you know, preserve them a little bit. Hey, maybe we should bring some of the older models that we don't really release like that out of the vault, like the 10s and the 12s. So you get where I'm going with the vault thing, right? People are afraid that these two drops, the undefeated 4s and the Wu-Tang Nike Dunks, is just it's the start of Nike just fully opening that vault, right? There's no restriction. No shoe is safe to not restock, right? I feel like at this point people are starting to think like, where does Nike end the line, right? And even though there are some grails that would be amazing to have, for example, any of the Nike Air Yeezys, you know, the Paranorman phones, those are one of my favorites. You know, Air Max. How far are they going to go into this vault to try and continue to please people? And that also kind of defeats the value and the stories of you know, everything that is attached with these shoes, right? Some of these shoes are known for being super limited, are known for causing chaos and causing certain events in the sneaker world, right? And we cherish those, and those are something that shouldn't be, you know, brought back so lightly because of the impact that it had. I feel like some of these shoes need to return, that they need to stay in the vault, and it makes no sense for their return, right? Now, obviously, right, there are definitely some shoes that I would love for them to come back, but at the same time, we also have to have a limit on how deep we're going to go into this vault, because that immensely decreases the significance of a lot of shoes. And once you do that, you're literally destroying your own brand, and which Nike has been doing a lot lately, and I'll make a separate video for that as well. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, because man, Nike's just in the dirt, right? And so I think those are my two main things that I have against this, right? It just doesn't make sense. It's not gonna sell, honestly. I don't think the undefeated 4s, they have a very good chance of selling, just because the 4s are a somewhat still prevalent model, right? But the Dunk Highs, nobody wanted the Dunk Highs when Dunks were at peak, right? So, and nobody listens to Wu-Tang. Respectfully, nobody's listening to Wu-Tang nowadays, right? I don't even think Wu-Tang comes on the radio. You can at least have some other bangers come on the radio, some old bangers come on the radio, but Wu-Tang, I genuinely have never heard Wu-Tang on the radio. Again, respectfully, I know they're a good group, but it just didn't fall in my generation, right? So it is what it is. Now, I do have, I saw from Frank Cooker, he kind of brought out his opinion on it. So this is kind of like the positive side of releasing these. So it says, for me, I feel like it's the perfect time to create nostalgia instead of nostalgia, nostalgia. When you are in a dope moment, you crank out the highest level of work, not focusing on or being concerned if it's going to be a moment in time. I will always love the cult classics. They are what made me curious and want to storytell through streetwear and footwear canvases. On the flip side, they can be compared to 16-bit Sega games. I mean, I love them, but they don't compare to today's leading titles. It's all about moving forward and telling the narratives of the ones that will shape future generations. As creatives, we can't be hesitant about taking risk and reshaping what the sneaker world is today. Now, honestly, there's a lot to indulge, right? So from how I interpret it, he's basically saying, no, go ahead and release them, right? I think they're dope. I think you know, there's a new generation of people that have never experienced this. So let's go ahead and try to have them have that same experience that people did when these originally came out, right? And I can understand that because it will get to a certain point where some of these shoes, for example, the newer generations wouldn't even have a thought of, they would never even get to know about it, right? The more time goes on, a lot of these classics will be soon forgotten, right? Obviously, you know, something like, I think, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say those. I was going to say at first, you know, like the Nike Yeezys. I would say the Nike Yeezys outside of the Red Octobers, right? I feel like everybody is just staple to the Red October. Same thing with the Air Max. The only reason it's kind of still staying prevalent is because, you know, the movie, and it's also always known for being the most expensive shoes. But you have, you know, other shoes like, you know, the Undefeated Force. I feel like at some point, yes, a new generation should be able to experience it, especially with this shoe originally only coming out with 72 pairs. Now, I will say that Nike has to do something in addition to releasing the shoe to create, you know, some type of similar hype. They can't just re-release the shoe and just expect the same thing to happen. A lot of the people from back then are probably not even into shoes or, you know, have that same urgency when it comes to shoes. And again, we're trying to focus on a new target audience. So you have to come out with some type of campaign. You have to put some type of influencers in their face to basically dig up this old shoe, this classic shoe, its hype, and bring it into this new generation. If you want the new generation to experience it and participate in it, they need that full effect. So go ahead and do something more than just releasing it and calling it a day. That is truly not enough. Now, the second thing that I interpret on this is that he says basically, don't take a risk. You have to continue reshaping the sneaker world history. So me personally, I think he's basically saying, bro, this is cool. Yes, let's go ahead and create the new experience that people experience from the old, but let's continue working, right? Let's continue making more innovative products, different products that the new generation, they can experience, right? Have them have their own version of the Undefeated Force where we get that same feeling. Don't stop and just focus on all of these old shoes, bro. He's basically saying, and that's how I feel too, you have to do more. You have to be innovative. You have to give something fresh, right? Obviously, there's always going to be a portion of people that are going to love the throwback releases. There's going to be a people of groups of sneakerheads where even if they weren't in that generation, they do their research, they indulge in the culture, and they learn about these older classic models, and obviously they want it, but let's give them something to experience as well, right? And that's basically what it is. We were doing it at one point, right? The Off-Whites, the original 10 collab, I feel like that gave us, I wouldn't say a similar feel, but like in level, like it wasn't at that point, but that was definitely a high moment, right? That was definitely a high moment. Travis Scott's, I think, you know, originally those gave us some high moments. Sean Witherspoon's a little bit, right? So it's not like that we just, our generation doesn't have anything, right? But after, you know, it started to trickle down and it started to kind of just, it seems like they didn't really care anymore. And I think that's really Nike's biggest downfall. So that's, you know, and just not to kind of sidetrack into going into Nike's downfall, because there's just so much that comes to that, which I think they should, well, they are concerned, but I feel like, you know, they should put some urgency to it. But there's so many factors of Nike's downfall in general compared to just, you know, them opening this big vault of these classic shoes, right? So those are the pros, those are the cons. Again, I'm sticking to my point. I think it has more cons than pros. of releasing these two shoes. I will probably be going for the Undefeated Forest, and it's really I really have no like attachment to them, right? Like obviously I know about their history, but they were never a shoe. I feel like at one point they were, right? Just because when I learned about it, I was like, yo, like, because when I learned about it, it came to a point where it was like, yeah, the Undefeated Forest, like, if you have those, only a select few people had those. So if you had those, you either had stupid amount of bread, or you were literally like plugged in with like Jordan brand themselves, right? Or, you know what I'm saying, things like that. Like, nobody really had these. So in my head, and this was also when I was younger too, it's like I respected the Undefeated Forest, and obviously it grew on me. Like dang, I would just love. It was more of the thought of having the shoe, more so of if the shoe looked good to me or not, right? Because again, there's a lot of classic shoes that I respect because they're classics and they paved the way for certain things, right? But they're just not good looking to me, and I don't have no attachment. Another example, the staple pigeon dunks. I don't really care about those. I don't care about the ray gun dunks. They don't really have an attachment to me. I don't really think they're good looking. But I respect them though, right? I would never really say that it's a bad shoe because I know what it was and what it is. You dig what I'm saying? But yeah, I'll probably just go for the Undefeated Forest, depending on, right, on what the release is and things like that. Because truthfully, there's already been shoes with the undefeated colorways, and I think all of them went under retail. Nobody wanted them. So what is it to a Jordan 4, right? To the point where we're not in peak Jordan 4 season anymore. Retail is extremely high on Jordan 4s. So it's not really gonna do anything better. And then the Wu-Tangs, I genuinely speaking, I think these are gonna sit. Genuinely speaking, I think these are gonna either sit or just be extremely accessible. One or the other. I really don't see them selling out unless Nike purposely makes them like ultra limited, right? But that's all I have to say for the video. Let me know what side you're on. Are you pro opening the vault all the way, or you think that Nike should just kind of chill and make some new stuff, man? But yeah, you guys can let me know in the comment section below. But with that being said, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.